Ian Machado Garry took a victory off of a short notice opponent in Carlos Prates. After the third round, I went ahead and declared it to be a mismatch. And I still think it was a mismatch, even with Prates' surge in the fifth. Prates is missing a lot of things, and Garry is just more well-rounded than Carlos Prates is at this point, and probably ever will be. What I saw was Prates having no branch of offense, or no tree of offense, I should say, not branch. It was more of a stick of offense, and the only thing it was pressure. And after, or during the times that Ian Garry neutralized him, his pressure, Prates didn't know what to do. And I don't think he's gonna be able to master a tree of offense to take him to a championship. I think I've seen enough to know that. That doesn't mean he won't be in outstanding fights or he's unlikable. I'm still a fan of Prates. As far as Garry goes, I was very impressed. I know there's a mixture between everybody. Ian Garry looked very good. I used to think he wasn't very good at combinations, but it's obvious that he was working on them in the interim of fights because he threw more combinations against Prates than what I remember. It was really nice to see. They were quite pretty. I'm not gonna lie, he was spamming the B button a little bit with that back head kick, but he was setting other things up with it. Garry is going to go far. What he needs to work on is his ability to smell blood in the water. He needs to be able to finish. I think Garry could finish people with kicks and elbows, maybe hands here and there more often. I also think that his takedowns are a little bit on the slow side when you're talking about attempting it against fighters in the top 5. The entire card was quite awesome, and I'm not gonna recap everything as everybody already does that, but somebody that did stick out to me I want to give a shout out to real quick is Malcolm Wellmaker from Augusta, Georgia. I even tweeted about this when Augusta, Georgia is brought up. The only thing I can think of is the rapper Miracle. So every time you see Wellmaker out there throwing down, be sure to scream Ugh Thug, the way Miracle used to. Miesha Tate and Yana Santos are gonna throw down. Now I find this one to be very interesting, as one could argue that Miesha is still one of the more marketable fighters in the women's bantamweight division. It's not that Miesha looked bad in her last outing. In fact, I made a video recapping it against Julia Avila. Problem is that it was Julia Avila, who's no longer fighting in the UFC. She lost to Lauren, by the way, that was in 2023, and she lost to Lauren Murphy in 2022 and Ketlin Vieira 2021. I think Ketlin has only gotten better, and I do feel like Ketlin would beat the version of Miesha that went against Julia Avila, but we'll see what this version against Yana Santos looks like. I'm a big fan of Miesha Tate, as anyone knows that follows the channel. I do hope she does something here. I would like to see Miesha make another run. The UFC and the fighters, Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington, in my opinion, and remember I'm a fan of both, I think everybody understands that now. Juliana Pena and Raquel Pennington did not do a good job of promoting the fight. Now, some of the blame is gonna be on them. The UFC barely promoted it. It really upset me, man. They used clips in the countdown and a couple of ads for the fight back in October. But not only did they use very few, they also used them out of context. And I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that I made a much better set of videos leading up to their rivalry than the UFC did. The fans didn't give it much of a chance, and I thought that was really unfair. People shit on it so hard that it was almost like a refusal to acknowledge the fight was happening. That was one of the fights I was most invested in ever, and it's because of the story of the women's bantamweight. Why am I recapping this all real quick? Because, as that lady says in that movie Basic, if Miesha Tate was somehow able to have an impressive win against Yana Santos, aka finish or submission, and then wait around to see what happens with Pena and Kayla, all of a sudden Miesha has like options to kind of make some rotation go around, and she has opponents that could spark some curiosity given what they may end up saying to each other, what kind of stories will come out, especially Pena and Tate. And again, as it stands of right now, I'm still picking Juliana Pena to win the fight against Kayla Harrison. And I know I misspoke at International Fight Week. It's not International Fight Week. It's the card before International Fight Week. My mistake. Sorry about that. If Yana Santos wins this, it's, you know, it's another consensus letdown that will be emanating from X and how much women's MMA sucks and all that. Which is fine, because right now there's definitely a lull, particularly in the women's bantamweight division. But if you look, you can find these interesting things, just like this thing with Miesha Tate. If Miesha and Juliana end up fighting after all these years, it is just as interesting to me as it was her and Raquel fighting. Also, when Miesha fought Raquel, that's still Raquel Pennington's best performance to date. Marina Rodriguez, or Rodriguez, is going to be taking on Gillian Robertson, and this is another women's fight that does have some interesting stakes here. Marina Mahina has already lost to Yasmin Lucindo and Jessica Andrade back-to-back. She did beat the ever-living shit out of hometown hero Michelle Waterson Gomez, but that was in 2023. It's really odd to me, you know, I don't know why I'm not looking into it that deep right now, but Gillian Robertson at number 12, and she was even lower than that prior to her current ranking, and I feel like she's been beating ass for a very long time now, and it's weird she's not in the top 10, but if I look at her resume, the names don't totally add up. She caught Michelle Waterson Gomez at the tail end of her career. Luana Pinheiro, in my opinion, has never been good. Yes, she's marketable, just like pre-10 Comic-Con attender Polyana Viana. But I mean, really, are those like, you know, wins? Polyana Viana only loses. Just kidding. Lost to Tabitha Ricci, which is like a respectable loss. Piera Rodriguez and Maria Agapova, who at one point I thought was like the next big thing. Those are okay wins, you know, but I still think she should be ranked a little bit higher. The fight is interesting because I do think Gillian Robertson has some interesting matchups ahead of her if she does get past Mahina. But as far as Mahina goes, this is pretty much a must win, and it kind of feels like the UFC is attempting to move her on out. It's not a bad match at all. And Marina could definitely win, dude. She hits hard. But I think Gillian is on the ascent, and I don't just mean by the wins. Bo Nickal and Rainer de Ridder, I think is a great matchup. If Bo gets past this guy, then everybody has to just be shutting up at that point, right? Even if he doesn't go for one takedown and just works on his jab the whole time. I know a lot of people don't like Bo Nickal. I think it is fake outrage. Whatever. I know people pretend to be a big fan of De Ridder. Not everybody. I know there's hardcores that know what's up, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are pretending to do that going into this fight just to see Bo Nickal lose. You fake. I think Bo Nickal has a lot of talent, and I do think he is on the right track. This is a good match. It's about time they move him up a little bit. De Ridder didn't really impress me in his last outing too much. No more than Bo Nickal has in his last one or two, in the last two he had. You guys want to talk about industry plant, you talk about the Kamaru Usman is back against Joaquin Buckley, and I really like this fight. A lot of people are writing off Kamaru right away, discussing his knees a whole ton, and you know that's going to be a thing that people do, obviously. Joaquin Buckley is growing on me in a weird way because I don't find his outside antics entertaining. I watched a video of his on YouTube, and it wasn't much for me. I see his antics outside, press conferences, weigh-ins, his social media. That time he looked like Tyler, the Creator, was pretty crazy. Outside of that, you know, but I still like him as a fan. He's a great fighter, but I don't know if he's ready for the experience that Kamaru Usman carries. I'm not writing off Kamaru just yet. You guys saw him marching his ass in that fucking Instagram post. I'm not doubting his knees. More importantly, I'm not doubting his fight IQ or his natural athleticism and just his given experience. Joaquin Buckley's a powerhouse, but you know, Kamaru can be that too. Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier for the BMF title. BMF title is not needed, It's fun, especially if it involves fights that are like what we got at UFC 300, or either of the previous 2 fights with Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. I don't know why anyone doesn't like this fight. Dustin shouldn't be fighting for the belt. That's for sure. Shouldn't be fighting Islam. It will be a BMF type fight. I don't imagine a whole lot of mat work is going to be involved here. It is Dustin's final fight in New Orleans, where it all started, which is so crazy because I remember watching when he was like his 2nd fight into the UFC. I remember watching like older fights from him, and then later on, I don't know how many fights in, but a documentary came out. And I remember watching that, and then I remember watching the other older fights for the first time after seeing him in the UFC. And beyond that, what I just said, his character and his work ethic and how he carries himself professionally is just something I can easily connect to. And this is a guy that is a lot like, George St. Pierre, in my opinion, as far as his professionalism goes. He will be missed, and it will be an emotional night, whether he wins or loses. Max Holloway is one of my favorite fighters. Everyone around me, Max is one. So is Dustin. This is going to be great. In fact, we're all going to get together and go watch this. The BMF title is there for contractual purposes, and if you're getting amazing slugfest fights, then who cares? It's funny because no one gave a fuck when Jorge won it, No one gave a fuck when Max knocked out Gaethje for it, No one's gonna be mad when one of these dudes wins. If it's a decision, they're both gonna be just bashed in, skulls bashed in. And if it's not a decision, one of them's getting knocked out, not submitted. I don't see nothing to complain about.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.